Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Understanding Regulated and Non-Regulated Occupations. My name is Sana and I'm part of the Career Loans Program. As a newcomer, when you first come to Canada and start looking for employment, a major obstacle is finding out if you're in a regulated or non-regulated occupation. Depending on which profession you're in, you would have to get yourself accredited, licensed, and regulated. So today we're going to delve deep into what makes an occupation regulated or non-regulated, and then what steps you need to follow. Firstly, let's look at the definition of a regulated occupation. In Canada, about 20% of jobs are in regulated occupations regulated by the provincial or territorial governments. Through legislation and regulation, the provinces and territories give to professions the authority to self-regulate in order to protect public health and safety. So in a regulated occupation, the recognition of your qualifications will be determined by the appropriate provincial or territorial regulatory authority. In a non-regulated occupation, the recognition is normally at the discretion of the employer, and those are the 80% of the jobs in Canada. Some fields where regulated occupations are commonly found include healthcare, financial services, law and legal services, and engineering. And for non-regulated occupations, it's pretty much everything else. I find this infographic really useful so you can identify the organization responsible for recognition. If you're in a regulated occupation, you would have to go to a regulatory body or an apprenticeship office, and depending on what profession it is and what the regulatory body's rules are, the accreditation will be valid in just your province or Canada-wide. For a non-regulated occupation, as mentioned before, it's at the discretion of the employer, so you need to check with your employer, and you can also check with your professional association or apprenticeship office if you want to get a voluntary certification. One other question is, fine, you've figured out whether you're in a regulated or non-regulated occupation, but how do you know if it's provincially or federally regulated? So the requirements unfortunately vary from one province or territory to another. So you need to research the rules about your occupational licensing, because the license that might be valid in, let's say, Ontario might not be valid in Saskatchewan or Alberta. One great resource that we do have is www.cicic.ca. They have a directory of occupational profiles, which is very useful. All you'll have to do is enter in your NOC code or your occupation name and which province or territory you're looking into, and they will tell you everything you need to know about your intended occupation. So how do licensing bodies evaluate you? For a regulated occupation, the four things that they'll be looking at are skills. How do you match up to the industry's demand for those skills? If you have the necessary skills, your training, any training that you've had in the past, if you have any certifications. The third thing they'll be looking at is they'll probably ask you to do some examinations to see if you have the right knowledge that you need for that industry. And lastly, they will be looking at your experience, the years of experience you've had in your country of origin and how those translate into Canadian standards. For a non-regulated occupation, the four things that they'll be looking at is your education in a related field. They will be looking at your related experience. They'll be looking at your Canadian equivalency, what is needed for this job in Canada and how do you match up. And lastly, but also most importantly, your skills for that certain occupation. These are a few of the resources that we do have that will really help you get started. You can use the job bank to find job postings and labor market information. These are funded by the Government of Canada. The second resource is the one that I shared earlier, the Directory of Occupational Profiles. This helps you learn about your intended occupation in Canada. The last one, which is really useful if you're planning to go in another job apart from what you were doing earlier, is the alternative jobs to regulated professions. You can get up to 5 alternative job ideas for different regulated professions, and I think that's a great idea to get started. You should never confine yourself to just one occupation, because that might lead you to more frustration. You can always look up alternative jobs in the same industry, which can help you get at least started in your career. So thank you for listening. For more great resources like this, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And if you need more information about any of these topics, then please contact your counselor. Have a great day.